What is going on, guys? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. Today I'm doing a video about the age-old discussion. What makes a true first appearance? I talked about Uncanny X-Men Annual 14, and I had some comments, and I love when you guys reach out in the comments and begin to argue a topic with me. And when I say argue, I don't mean argue and fight. I love argumentation, and I think this is great, especially when talking in the context of anything that relates to comic books. And this is a big topic. What defines a true first appearance? And I'm going to break some things down in this video. One, I'm going to break down my personal opinion. Then two, I'm going to break down what the industry dictates. And then three, I'm going to kind of bring those two things together and address what that means for us as collectors and what it means for the industry and how we are to look at it currently and moving forward. So again, the thing that, or the topic that was brought up had to do with Gambit. So Gambit's first appearance has been one that has obviously been in question. The argument at hand is that Uncanny X-Men Annual 14 is not Gambit's cameo appearance. It is his true first appearance. And basically, that is incorrect according to the industry, okay? But I'm going to express my personal opinions on why the industry isn't necessarily right, but at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you why what the industry says matters, okay? So let's first go into one simple thing, and that is basically a definition of the word cameo. And let me speak to my first issue of the comic book industry and first appearances. The word cameo should have never been used to define anything regarding first. Okay? Cameo was not the word to use. So let's read the definition here. Cameo, this is from the Webster Dictionary. Cameo means a small character part in a play, movie, or story played by a distinguished actor or celebrity. Broadly, a brief appearance or role. Using an example, quote, he played numerous cameo roles. Cameo has nothing to do with first, okay? So basically, to add cameo to first appearance, honestly, is almost a conundrum, right? Because as comic book collectors, I think most of us agree that a first appearance is a first appearance, right? When we see someone for the first time and we can distinguish who they are, okay? Not distinguished as it says here, as in distinguished actor or celebrity. That means somebody that is recognizable due to a catalog of performances. But when I say distinguished, I just mean we recognize them in the context of that story, whether it's by face or by name, right? Here's a character, this is what they look like, or this is their name, or both, right? That's the first appearance in my book. So the irony of this is one example. Stan Lee. We all know that Stan Lee is known for what in all of the Marvel movies, whether that's MCU or just Marvel by Fox or Sony or Universal. Stan Lee is known for cameo appearances. So when we say Stan Lee has a cameo appearance, does that mean we don't know who Stan Lee is and he pops up in a film and his true first appearance isn't going to come later? No, we know who he is. He is distinguished, right? And he played numerous cameo roles in all of the Marvel films. Therefore, again, cameo does not relate at all to first, okay? So here's one definition for a comic book cameo, okay? If a character like Cyclops appears in a Avengers book, right? Or Iron Man appears in an Uncanny X-Men issue. Or Spider-Man appears in a Doctor Strange issue. Those are cameos. Whether they're on one page or whether that character is featured in the story throughout a whole issue, it's still a cameo because he's making a brief appearance in a series or a storyline that is not his or her own. That's the definition of a cameo, and the comic book industry has messed that up, I will say, right? Unfortunately, it is what it is. So let's dive deeper into what it is. Now, this is a breakdown by Go Collect. Now, let me explain here. There is no industry definition, actually. There are documentations out there and there are industry books, but no one industry entity comes forward and states this is the definition of a cameo or first full appearance, right? Marvel doesn't have one strict defining term. DC doesn't have one strict defining term. The actual most relevant defining term that's out there are your grading companies, CGC, CBCS, and so forth, because that's what really dictates value and what solidifies the terms within the industry, at least in this day and age. But let's just read through what Go Collect says that they feel is the difference between a cameo and a first full appearance. And later on in the video, I'm also going to explain why stating that a character's appearance is a first full appearance doesn't mean that whatever came before that is not a cameo. That may sound confusing. I'm going to explain that in a few minutes. But first, let's go into this. The first cameo appearance is essential in a character's background, but not the most expensive. The cameo is a character appearing on only a few panels, or even just one panel, in the interior pages. Basically, the cameo is a very limited intro of the character and teaser. Every cameo is usually cheaper than the first appearance, running about 50 to 75% less in value. A good example of a cameo is Hulk 180. I'm not going to get into the values here. In contrast, the Hulk 181 is worth a lot more and is considered his first full appearance of Wolverine, that is. Now, what they say a first full appearance is, it's defining the first full appearance, defining the first full appearance is tough. Some apps help. Exactly, there's no straightforward definition. Essentially, the first full appearance is a full story on the character, with that character appearing in multiple panels and multiple pages. So, you could look at a situation like Hulk 180 and say, well, that's his first appearance. And then you could still define Hulk 181 as a first full appearance because they are actually really involved in the bulk of the story, right? They're there for the whole story. That makes more sense than calling Hulk 181 a Hulk 180 a cameo, and then calling Hulk 181 a first full appearance. Again, the word cameo doesn't really fit in to the actual context of how the character is popping up on the pages of the story or the book. Moving on, though, you get kind of an idea of what the industry is dictating here with what Go Collect is saying. Now, this is proof that industry standard does not see X-Men Annual 14 as Gambit's first appearance. It states right here on a CGC slab, Gambit cameo predates Uncanny X-Men 266. This, by industry standards, is a cameo appearance, period, point blank. It doesn't matter what I believe, doesn't matter what you believe, it doesn't matter what any of us believe. Industry dictates that this is Gambit's cameo appearance, end of story. Now, we have purchasing power as consumers, and I'm going to get a little more into that later, but ultimately, we follow what the industry dictates. Sometimes it's the conundrum of what comes first, the chicken or the egg, where sometimes our purchasing power dictates the industry, right? But in most scenarios, it is the industry that is going to dictate the market in the consumer purchasing power. Hence, why this book right here is valued much less, than Uncanny X-Men 266. The industry dictated, we as consumers in the market followed. Okay, so the demand that we put forth into the market states that we demand Uncanny X-Men 266 more because we see what the industry is dictating and we're following that. As you guys can see here, X-Men 266, first full appearance of Gambit. Again, there's no first appearance in between cameo and full. There's only first cameo and then first full. Period. Now, with that being said, again, and we'll look at it. First cameo of Gambit, and you guys can see right here, Gambit cameo. It even says predates Uncanny X-Men 266, and we're going to get into that too. And then we got first full appearance of Gambit. There's no in between. There's either first cameo or first full. Now, here's the release dates. Uncanny X-Men Annual 14 was released in January of 1990. Uncanny X-Men 266 was released in August. This is basically about a 7 to 8 month time period difference. That's a huge difference. So there's no indication that there's any confusion of which book came first. Now, the annual book indefinitely came first. Okay, I think we can put that argument to rest. January to August, like I said, I mean, just depending on where they fall out in the month, that's anywhere between 7 to 8 months of space in between releases, right? Now, here's some pages of X-Men Annual 14. Because if we go back to what Go Collect was saying, and again, the industry doesn't have a specific definition, okay? But what they're saying is about 2 to 3 panels. You know, they're not involved in the whole story. Now, Uncanny X-Men Annual is a giant-sized book. You know, I believe it's like about 60 pages. I don't think it's 80. I think it's 60. And this book right here, or this page right here, shows the first glimpse that we ever see in Gambit. Now, look towards the top right panel right here. We get communication between two characters where they're talking between each other, and we get the name, as it states, and calls himself Gambit. We see Gambit responding to that. We get a name, we get a face. He shows up in the next panel down here. We see the back of him right here, and then we see them barely going in here. And then we see the back, we see the arm. Here's the arm of Gambit right here. We see him coming down the steps or the ladder right here. So this is basically we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels. And he's almost on this full page, but the only time that he talks is on this page. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4 panels of him talking, okay? Then Gambit does show up in the rest of the book a few more times, but in the background, like right here, in groups, okay? He's not involved in the story or talking at any other point in time. Now, there's battle scenes where we see him kind of in the shadow battling. So again, when you look back at the definition that we got from Go Collect, the character was not involved in the whole story to call it a full appearance, right? But we see him enough to where it's questionable, because like I said, if it was up to me, I would call that a first appearance, period. I put a period at the end of it, right? But the character, even though it's more than what they said, the average of 2 to 3 panels, what is it, like 6 to 7, and then a couple more where you could see him in the back fighting in a big group, and he only has, what did we say, 5 panels of dialogue. That, to me, still falls under the category of what the industry is dictating as a, as a cameo. Now, this is a statement from CBR.com. And we'll read here. What I think happened is that Gambit's first appearance in Uncanny X-Men Annual 14 was initially overlooked. During 1991, when the comic book speculation boomed, Uncanny X-Men 266 was featured prominently. It became a very collectible comic book back in that 1991 to 93 era. It is today as well, but in that era, it was when there was a proliferation of comic book price guides and collectible stuff like that. Thus, when people eventually figured out that Uncanny X-Men Annual number 14 was Gambit's actual first appearance, it is said that it had some sort of explanation, or that the industry had some sort of explanation given so that Uncanny X-Men 266 would retain its position as the first appearance of Gambit. Actually, there's a part of this quote that's cut out. that you don't see in the screen. And it actually states that they believe that this actual situation with Gambit's first appearance is what created the term cameo. So the irony of calling Uncanny X-Men Annual 14 not his cameo, the irony of calling it that is very interesting, because in the industry there is speculation to say that this is the conundrum that actually created the birth of the term cameo appearance that preceded first full appearance, right? Very interesting stuff going on here. Now, we're going to look at some other books. Now, it said that Hulk 180 is what made Hulk 181 become the first full appearance, okay? Now, it may be that the cameo appearance, in coining that term, pushed for what the industry believed is a true appearance to be called a full appearance, but only when there's a cameo before it, and I'm going to explain to you guys. Here's Hulk 180, and we can see right here clearly, first appearance of Wolverine in Cameo, last page. Okay, here is Hulk 181, first full appearance of Wolverine. Again, there is no in between. There's no first cameo, there's no first appearance, and then there's no first full appearance. There's not the three, there's only two. Cameo, full. Next, Taskmaster. Avengers 195, you can see it right here. First appearance of Taskmaster in Cameo on last page. Here's 196. First full appearance of Taskmaster. Nothing in between. Okay, I could have used Amazing Spider-Man 299, where it would said first cameo of Venom, and then 300 first full Venom. I could have used that as an example. Now, here's the thing about first full appearance. The industry only recognizes and uses the term first full appearance when a character makes a cameo appearance prior. If you have a character that actually makes a full appearance without having a cameo precede that, they still call it, as you can see here, first appearance, period. What that means is Gwen Stacy showed up in a comic book for the very first time in Amazing Spider-Man 31 without any hint of a cameo or any hint of a brief appearance, whether it's a shadow or a speech bubble or an arm or a hand before this. This is her true first appearance. It's also her first full appearance. It is, but they don't dictate that because there was clearly no cameo appearance prior to this one. Okay, I'm going to use another example here. Cloak and Dagger. Spectacular number 64, as you can see here. First appearance of Cloak and Dagger. There is no full or cameo in there, because Cloak and Dagger as characters never made any sort of brief appearance prior to this. So stating that this is their first full appearance is null and void, but it actually is their first full appearance. But because there's no cameo that predates and precedes, this is only stated as first appearance. So guys, I hope that gave some clarity in context to the full appearance. People aren't adding full appearance to Hulk 181 because they're now recognizing Hulk 180 as their true first appearance. That's not true. They're stating full appearance to let you know that we did see them before in what we define as a cameo. So, the way I will sum this all up and try to put everything in a context. The industry defines a first cameo appearance no matter what we think. Okay? I'll say it again. I think them utilizing the term, they could have put, like, instead of using cameo, they could have put first sneak appearance, right? Or first brief appearance, right? I like sneak. Sneak's a good one. What do you think about that? Sneak appearance? Like sneak preview? You know? The fact that Cameo, as the term, was ever coined in the comic book industry, I think is ridiculous. Take this example again. If I had a what's a book? If I had a book where, say, Moon Knight appeared in an Amazing Spider-Man book, right? And we know Moon Knight. Say it's in the 90s. Say it's like a Moon Knight did show up in Amazing Spider-Man, 350 something? So what if that book gets graded by CGC, CBCS, or whatever? On the label, it should state Moon Knight Cameo. That's what it should say. It should state Amazing Spider-Man, number 350 whatever, Moon Knight Cameo appearance. Because that's what it is. It's a cameo appearance. It has nothing to do with Moon Knight's first appearance. But because I believe that doesn't change the industry or the perception of collectors in terms of their purchasing power, okay? So when we look at books that have already been released, like X-Men Annual 14 and Uncanny 266, or even the Hulk books, 180 and 181. When we look at books like this, we as collectors and as consumers who impact the market by our purchasing power and what we demand. What we demand creates supply and demand within the market, right? We still have power to say, you know what, I'm going to demand Annual 14 more than Uncanny 266. And even if we did that on a collective scale, nationwide, worldwide, it's going to drive the value of that book higher than Uncanny 266, but we will never get there. I see a trend. I will. The idea of a first true appearance being the cameos, like so many more collectors are saying, look, screw this cameo coin. This is their first appearance, and that's what I'm going to believe. We've seen that have an impact, and that's why Hulk 180 has been going up in value. But it's never going to get close to Hulk 181. And it's the same with any of other books that are coined cameos by the industry. I believe there's a trend and they're gaining value, but it's never going to get close to what the industry declares a first appearance or a first full appearance. Now, the only way that the industry would change, or so to say, retcon, what they defined as a cameo or a first full, is if our demand collectively actually changed market demand and changed the value of the books. That's why value matters. Value matters because it speaks to collectors' purchasing power, and it's that chicken or the egg thing, what comes first. We've been following the industry, right? But if we become more powerful than what the industry dictates, and we allow our purchasing power to dictate value and what's more valued because we demand it more, then the industry has to look at demand of the market and say, well, shoot, it's going to be more valuable for us to switch our terms and what we dictate. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen on its own. The industry, collectors will never demand Annual 14 more than 266. They won't. Unless we are following the industry. If the industry actually, for some reason, came out and decided to retcon Gambit's first appearance, CGC started labeling Uncanny X-Men Annual 14 as his first full appearance, and change the labeling of 266 to first appearance in continuity. If CGC in the industry started doing that, then the market would follow. Collectors would follow, and they would follow that trend. And basically, but they're not going to do that. I'm going to explain why. Because not only will the value of Annual 14 go up, it's going to pop any value of 266. So all those collectors that have invested for the last few years anywhere from $100 to $200 plus in Uncanny X-Men 266 because it's been increasing in value, they're going to have a book that's and that might end up being worth $15 or $20. That's not going to happen. The industry isn't going to do it, and the market isn't going to allow it. We as collectors aren't going to allow it. This book has been out for 30 years, and we as collectors have followed the industry dictation, what the industry has dictated for the last 30 years on these two books. We're not going to change that now. But the one good thing about us talking about this is, and what we could change, is moving forward. I think our voice is loud enough to where these big publishers, especially Marvel and DC, are understanding that they have to be more careful about what they define as a first appearance or first cameo. And I think that's why we have industry insiders like CBR coming out and trying to have clear definitions of what a cameo is, even though it's not 100% clear still at this point. So I am not lying to the community. I am not perpetuating false information. It is clear. It is clear that the industry dictates cameo versus full, and it is clear that we as collectors follow. I can sit here and attest to what I believe in on a personal level, but it's not going to do anything to change the market demand or to change what the industry dictates and how they coin their terms. And ultimately, that's just how it is. And I think the best thing for us to do is continue to have these conversations, but in a productive way and not a counterproductive way. We're not going to argue against the industry for books that are 30, 40, 50 years old. But we can, as collectors, we can start speculating on cameo appearances. Let's go out there and let's demand cameo appearances. Let's collect them. Let's be excited as collectors as much as cameo appearances as we almost are about what the industry considers first full appearances. Because if we do that, we are going to drive the value of cameo appearances up higher. And there's fun in that for us. There's gain of value and return on investment in that for us. But we have to be rational and understand that even though we may think they're their first true appearances, what are coined as cameo appearances will never be as valuable as what have been coined the first full appearances over the last 30, 40, or 50 years. So, with that being said, I hope this gave some clarification on this argument. It's an amazing argument to have. I love it. I hate the idea of cameo, but I'm a logical person and I'm a realist. And it does no good to lie to myself, right? We do more harm lying to ourselves, saying, no, this is their first true appearance. Keep that in your heart. Keep that in your heart, but ultimately understand what it means for the industry to dictate to us and understand why the market value of things matter on both sides of the coin, meaning industry to the industry and to collectors. So that is my spiel, guys. I know it was a long one, but this is just a great topic. I want to hear some comments and feedback below. I appreciate the individual that was communicating with me about this, that inspired me to make this video. It's, there's no real right or wrong way when it comes to opinion, but I think we do have to understand fact of the matter, and that helps us be content with at least understanding the ways of the world, and in this sense, we mean the world of collecting comic books. So thank you all for watching. Leave some feedback. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. And until next time.